From the Adbhuta Ramayana, credited to Maharishi Valmiki. Yada yada by Dharmasya Glanir Bhavati Suvrata, Dharmetada Prakriti Sambhavap. O keeper of righteous vows, remember this. Whenever dharma is in decline, or there is an upsurge of adharma, the sacred feminine will incarnate. She will defend dharma. She will protect us. List of characters and important tribes. In alphabetic order, Arishtanemi, military chief of the Malayaputras, right hand. Man of Vishwamitra. Ashwapati, king of the northwestern kingdom of Kekaya. Father of Kaikeyi and a loyal ally of Dashrath. Bharat, Ram's half-brother, son of Dashrath and Kaikeyi. Dashrath, Chakravarti king of Koshala and emperor of The. Sapt Sindhu, husband of Kaushalya, Kaikeyi, and Sumitra. Father of Ram, Bharat, Lakshman and Shatrughan. Hanuman, Radhika's cousin, son of Vayu Kesari, a Naga and a member of the Vayuputra tribe. Janak, king of Mithila, father of Sita and Urmila. Jatayu, a captain of the Malayaputra tribe. Naga, friend of Sita and Ram. Kaikeyi, daughter of King Ashwapati of Kekaya, the second, and favorite wife of Dashrath, mother of Bharat. Kaushalya, daughter of King Hanuman of South Koshala, and his wife Maheshwari, the eldest queen of Dashrath, mother of Ram. H. Kushadhwaj, king of Sankashya, younger brother of Janak. Lakshman, one of the twin sons of Dashrath. Bono, Kumbhakarna, Ravan's brother, also a Naga. Sumitra, faithful to Ram, later married to Urmila. Malayaputras, the tribe left behind by Lord Parshuram. The sixth Vishnu. Manthara, the richest merchant of the Sapt Sindhi. Mara, an independent assassin for hire. Narad, a trader from Lothal, Hanuman's friend. Nagas, human beings born with deformities. Ravan, king of Lanka, brother of Vibhishan, Shurpanakha. And Kumbhakarna, Radhika, Sita's friend, Hanuman's cousin. Ram, son of Emperor Dashrath of Ayodhya, capital city of Koshala, and his eldest wife Kaushalya, eldest of 4 brothers. Later married to Sita. Samichi, police and protocol chief of Mithila. Shatrughan, twin brother of Lakshman, son of Dashrath. And Sumitra. Shurpanakha, half-sister of Ravan. Shvetaketu, Sita's teacher. Sita, adopted daughter of King Janak and Queen Sunena of Mithila, also the Prime Minister of Mithila, later married to Ram. Sumitra, daughter of the King of Kashi, the third wife of Dashrath, mother of the twins Lakshman and Shatrughan. Su. T. Ak. 2. Sita, warrior of Mithila. Sunena, queen of Mithila, mother of Sita and Utmila. Vali, the king of Kishkindha. Varun Ratnakar, Radhika's father. Chief of the Valmikis. Vashishtha, Rajguru, the royal priest of Ayodhya, teacher of the 4 Ayodhya princes. Vayu Kesari, Hanuman's father, Radhika's uncle. Vayuputras, the tribe left behind by Lord Rudra, the previous. Mahadev, Vibhishan, half-brother of Ravan. Vishwamitra, chief of the Malayaputras, the tribe left behind by Lord Parshuram, the sixth Vishnu, also temporary guru of Ram and Lakshman. Urmila, younger sister of Sita, blood daughter of Janak and Sunena, later married to Lakshman. Note on the narrative structure. Thank you for picking up this book and giving me the most important thing you can share, your time. I know this book has taken long to release, and for that I offer my apologies. But when I tell you the narrative structure of the Ramchandra series, perhaps you will understand why it took so long. I have been inspired by a storytelling technique called hyperlink, which some call the multilinear narrative. In such a narrative, there are many characters, and a connection brings them all together. The three main characters in the Ram Chandra series are Ram, Sita, and Ravan. Each character has life experiences which mold who they are, and their stories converge with the kidnapping of Sita, and each has their own adventure and riveting backstory. So, while the first book explored the tale of Ram, the second and third will offer a glimpse into the adventures of Sita and then Ravan respectively, before all three stories merge from the fourth book onwards into a single story. Acknowledgements. When one writes, one PRS once saw loot on paper, they say, it takes courage to do that. They also saw that cause KCNMES. Only when one knows that T-man stands sit himta LHE. Acknowledge those who stand with me, who give me cause K, who make me realize that I am not alone. Neil, my be-year-old son, my pride and joy, he reads a lot. Already can't wait for him to read my book Sel. Preeti, my wife. Bhavna, my sister. Himanshu, my brother-in-law. Anish and Ashish, my brothers, for all their ingots too. The story. They read the first draft, usually as each chapter is written, and I discuss many of the philosophies with them in detail. I also wrote much of this book in Anish and Meeti house in Delhi. I must have done something good in my previous life to be blessed with these relationships. The rest of my family, Usha, Vinay, Meter, Donata, Sharnaz, Smeeter, Anuj, Rooter, for their consistent faith and love. Sharvani, my editor, she is as committed to my stories as I am. She is as stubborn as I am. She reads a lot, just like I do. She's as technologically challenged as I am. We must have been siblings in a previous life. Gautam, Krishna Kumar, Neha, Deefi, Satish, Sanghamitra, Jayanti, Sudha, Vipin, Shrivats, Shatrughan, Sarita, Arunima, Raju, Sanyop, Naveen, Jaishankar, Satish, Divya, Madhu, Satya, Srida, Christina, Prey and the fantastic team at Westland, my publisher. In my humble opinion, they are the best publisher in India. Acknowledgements. When one writes, one pours one's soul out on paper. They say, it takes courage to do that. They also say that courage comes only when one knows that many stand with him. I'd like to acknowledge those who stand with me, who give me courage, who make me realize that I am not alone. Neil, my 8-year-old son, my pride and joy. He reads a lot already. I can't wait for him to read my books. Preeti, my wife, Bhavna, my sister, Himanshu, my brother-in-law, Anish and Ashish, my brothers, for all their inputs to the story. They read the first draft, usually as each chapter is written, and I discuss many of the philosophies with them in detail. I also wrote much of this book in Anish and Meter's house in Delhi. I must have done something good in my previous life to be blessed with these relationships. The rest of my family, Usha, Vinay, Meter, Donata, Sharnaz, Smeeter, Anuj, Rooter, for their consistent faith and love. Sharvani, my editor, she is as committed to my stories as I am. She is as stubborn as I am. She reads a lot, just like I do. She's as technologically challenged as I am. We must have been siblings in a previous life. Gautam, Krishna Kumar, Neha, Deepti, Satish, Sanghamitra, Jayanti, Sudha, Vipin, Shrivats, Shatrughan, Sarita, Arunima, Raju, Sanyop, Naveen, Jaishankar, Satish, Divya, Madhu, Satya, Srida, Christina, Preeti and the fantastic team at Westland, my publisher. In my humble opinion, they are the best publisher in India. Anuj, my agent. a friend and a partner from Hiway, worked with Westland to drive the marketing efforts for this. Abhijit, an old friend and senior corporate executive, WH, beginning. Book. The man is brilliant. Mohan and Mehul, my personal managers, who manage everything so that I can have the time to write. Abhijit, Sonali, Shruti, Roy, Cassandra, Joshua, P., who are thoroughly outstanding designers. Pura, Neelan, Nivedita, Neha, Nehal, and the team at Sideways, an exceptional company that applies creativity across all aspects of a business. Sideways helped formulate the business and marketing strategy for the book. They've also made most of the marketing material, including the cover, which I think is one of the best covers I have ever seen. They were helped in the cover design by the author team Jitendra, Deval, Johnson, Mayank, Priyanka Jan, Deepika, Naresh, Vishal, Dennis, and the Mozart team, who have driven media relations and marketing alliances for the book. They have been strong partners and among the best agencies I have worked with. Himal, Neha and the Octopus team, who have helped manage many of the social media activities for the book. Hardworking, super smart and intensely committed. They, an asset to any team, are Mrunalini and Vrishali, Sanskrit scholars, who work with me on research. My discussions with them are enlightening. What I learn from them helps me develop many theories which go into the books. And last, but certainly not the least, you, the reader. It is only due to your support that I have been given the privilege of living the kind of life I do, where I can do what I love and actually earn my living from it. I can never thank you enough. Chapter 1, 3400 BCE. Samulhire near the Godavari River, India. Sita cut quickly and efficiently, slicing through the thick leaf stems with her sharp knife. The dwarf banana trees were as tall as she was. She did not need to stretch. She stopped and looked at her handiwork. Then she cast a look at Makrant, the Malayaputra soldier, a short distance away. He had cut down perhaps half the number of leaves that Sita had. The weather was calm. Just a little while ago, the wind had been howling through this part of the forest. Unseasonal rain had lashed the area. Sita and Makrant had stood under a thick canopy of trees to save the mess seals from the rain. The winds had been so loud that it had been almost impossible for them to talk to each other. And just as suddenly, calm had descended. The rain and winds had vanished. They quickly headed to a patch of the woods with an abundance of dwarf banana trees. For the entire purpose of the excursion was to find these leaves. That's enough, Makrant, said Sita. Makrant turned around. The wetness had made it hard to cut the leaf stems. Under the circumstances, he had thought that he had done a good job. Now, he looked at the stack of Lexwes by Siak's side, and then down at his own much. Sis smiled broadly in return. That's more than ENCM. Returning from their hunt soon. Hopefully, they would. Let's go back to the camp. Ram and Lakshman shield. PDE, he milled sheepishly. Her brother-in-law Lakshman had been racing through Sita, along with her husband Prince Ram of Ayodhya and Dandakaraya, or forest of Dandak, to escape the expected vengeance of the demon king of Lanka, Ravan. Captain Jatayu, leading a small company of the Malayaputra tribe, sworn to protect the three Ayodhya royals. He had strong. Ravan would certainly send troops to avenge his sister. Advised that it was the only available course of action. Princess Shurpanakha, who had been injured by Lakshman, found something. Secrecy was essential. So, they were cooking their food in Pits dug deep into the ground. For fire, they used a specific type of coal, anthracite. It let out smokeless alarms. For abundant caution, the sunk cooking pot was covered with a thick layer of banana leaves. It ensured that no smoke escaped, even by accident, for that could give their position away. It way. For this reason that Sita and Makrant had been cutting down banana leaves. It was Sita's turn to cook. Makrant insisted on carrying the larger pile, and she let him. It made the Malayaputra soldier feel like he was balancing his contribution. But it was this act that would eventually prove fatal for poor Makrant. Sita heard it first. A sound that would have been inaudible a little while ago, with the howling winds. It was unmistakable. Now, the menacing creak of a bow being stretched. A common bow. Many of the more accomplished soldiers and senior officers, Frenelli, Watt, Destinet, Mal, Lep 2, Mac, Maid H, Should, Arrow, Sit, Hustle, Proth, Maker, The, Wool, S, of A, Dow, Aha, Ubs, To Be, Ku, Sol, Aim, Wick, Sita, warrior of Mithila. Officers used the more expensive composite bows, but they frontline soldiers used the common variety, made entirely of wood. These bows were usually more rigid, and they made a distinct sound when stretched. Makrant, duck, screamed Sita, dropping the leaves as she leapt to the ground. Makrant responded quickly enough, but the heavier load made him trip. An arrow shot in quickly, slamming into his right shoulder as he fell forward. Before he could react, a second arrow struck his throat. A lucky shot. Sita rolled as she fell to the ground and quickly steadied herself behind a tree. She stayed low, her back against the tree. Protected for now, she looked to her right. The unfortunate Makrant lay on the ground, drowning rapidly in his own blood. The arrow point had excited through the back of his neck. He would soon be dead. Sita cursed in anger, and then realized it was a waste of energy. She began to breathe deeply, calming her heart down, paying attention. She looked around carefully. Nobody ahead of her. The arrows had come from the other direction, obscured by the tree that protected her. She knew there had to be at least two more enemies. There was no way a single archer could have shot two arrows in such rapid succession. She looked at Makrant again. He had stopped moving. His soul had moved on. The jungle was eerily quiet. It was almost impossible to believe that just a few short moments ago, brutal violence had been unleashed. Farewell, brave Makrant. May your soul find purpose once again. She caught snatches of commands whispered in the distance. Go to Lord Kumbhakarna. Tell, she's here. She heard the hurried footsteps of someone rushing away. There was probably just one enemy now, she looked. The Anthan whispered, help me, mother. Help me. She drew her knife from the scabbard tied horizontally. The SR-NAL of her BNCK. She closed her eyes. She couldn't AFFR to look around the tree and expose herself. She would be shot instantly. Her eyes were osculous. She had to relying on sound. But very few could throw knives at her ears. There were great archers who could shoot source of a sound. Sita was one of those very few. She had a loud yet surprisingly gentle voice. Come on, Princess Sita. We don't want to hurt you. It's better if. The voice stopped mid-sentence. It would not be hint ever again, for there was a knife buried in the throat that he into view, turned quickly and flung the knife with unerring and, being the source of that voice, Sita had, without bringing hers, deadly accuracy. The Lanka soldier was momentarily surprised. As the knife thumped into his throat, he died in no time. Just Ike Makrant had, drowning in his own blood. Sita waited. She had to be sure there was no one else. Had no other weapon. But her enemies didn't know that. Listened intently. Hearing no sound, she threw herself to the ground, rolling rapidly behind low shrubs. Still no sign or anyone. Move. More. There's nobody else. Sita quickly rose to her feet and sprinted to the slain Lanka. Surprised that his bow was not knocked with an arrow, she tried to pull her knife out, but it was lodged too deep in the dead Lanka's vertebra. It refused to budge. The can is in trouble. Move. Lifer. Sita picked up the Lanka's quiver. It contained a few arrows. She quickly tied it around her back and shoulder. Sita, warrior of Mithila 5, lifted the bow and ran hard towards the temporary camp. She had to kill the other Lanka soldier before he reached his team and warned them. The temporary camp showed signs of a massive struggle. Most of the Malayaputra soldiers, except Jatayu and 2 others, were already dead, lying in pools of blood. They had been ruthlessly massacred. Jatayu was also badly injured. Blood seeped out from numerous wounds that covered his body, some made by blades, some by fists. His arms were tied tightly behind his back. 2 Lanka soldiers held him up in a tight grip. A giant of a man loomed in front, questioning the great Naga. Naga was the name given to people of the Sapt-Sindhu, born with deformities. Jatayu's malformation gave his face the appearance of a vulture. The other 2 Malayaputras knelt on the ground, also bloodied. Their hands were similarly tied at the back. 3 Lanka soldiers surrounded each one, while 2 more held them down. The Lanka swords were dripping with blood. Ravan and his younger brother, Kumbhakarna, stood at a distance, looking intently at the interrogation. Focused. Their hands clean of any blood. Answer me, Captain, barked the Lanka. Where are they? Jatayu shook his head vehemently. His lips were sealed. The Lanka leaned within an inch of the Naga's ear and whispered, "You were one of us, Jatayu. You were loyal to Lord Ravan once." Jatayu cast a malevolent look at the Lanka. His smoldering eyes gave the reply. The Lanka continued, "We can forget the past," is the word of a Lankan. This is the word of Captain K. We want to know. And come back to Lanka with Hanon fading, a blank expression on his face, as if his our mind. Jatayu looked away and stared into the distance. "Wow!" the Lanka interrogated signaled one of his soldiers. His sword clean on his forearm band and slipping it back. "As you command, Captain Khara," said the soldier. "See his scabbard." He walked up to an injured Malayaputra youth, yanked his head back and placed the knife against. Drew out his serrated knife. He positioned himself behind throat. Then he looked at Khara, awaiting the order. Somewhere CLSC. Khara took hold of Jatayu's head such that his eyes stared directly at his fellow Malayaputra. The knife at his roar. "Khara, but don't you want to save at least 2 of your soldi? You may not care for your own life, Captain Jatayu." The Malayaputra looked at Jatayu and shouted, "1 am res to die, my captain. Don't say anything." The Lanka hit the young soldier's head with the knife high. His body slouched and then straightened again with Korak. The blade swiftly returned to his throat. Khara spoke with silky politeness, "Come on, Captain. And your soldier's life. Tell us where they are. You will never catch them," growled Jatayu. "The 3 them are long gone." Khara laughed. "The 2 princes of Ayodhya can K. Going. For all I care, we are only interested in the Vishnu." Jatayu was shocked. Who do they knock? Where is the Vishnu? Asked Khara. Where is she? Jatayu's lips began to move, but only in prayer. He, praying for the soul of his brave soldier. Khar, Jate, the Mala, Jaya, of death, the Malaya, Infectin, the U, him, Ja, Fa, Sita SL, the O, Pierce, them, Camp, a her, two, Sir, held, Brew, Def, Ni, Alo, Is, Lin, Ha. Khara gave a curt nod. Sita, warrior of Mufitbila. Jatayu suddenly straightened and loudly rent the air with the Malayaputra cry. Jaya Parshuram! Yai Parshuram! Shouted both the Malayaputras. The fear of death could not touch them. The Lanka pressed the blade into the throat of The Malayaputra. Slowly, he slid the serrated knife to the side, inflicting maximum pain. Blood spurted out in a shower. As the youth collapsed to the ground, life slowly ebbing out of him, Jatayu whispered within the confines of his mind. Farewell, my brave brother. Sita slowed as she approached the camp. She had already killed the other Lanka soldier. He lay some distance away. An arrow pierced in his heart. She had grabbed his arrows and added them to her quiver. She hid behind a tree and surveyed the camp. Lanka soldiers were everywhere, probably more than 100. All the Malayaputra soldiers were dead. All except Jatayu. Two lay close to him, their heads arched at odd angles. Surrounded by large pools of blood, Jatayu was on his knees, held by two Lankans. His hands were tied behind his back. Brutalized, injured and bleeding, but not broken. He was defiantly staring into the distance. Khara stood near him, his knife placed on Jatayu's upper arm. He ran his knife gently along the triceps, cutting into the flesh, drawing blood. Sita looked at Khara and frowned. I know Beam. Where have I seen Beam before? Khara smiled as he ran the knife back along the bloodied line he had just drawn, slicing deep into some sinew. Answer me, said Khara, as he slid cheek this time, drawing some more blood. Where is she? Jatayu spat at him. Kill me quickly or kill me slowly. Why? The knife will not get anything from me. Khara raised his knife in anger, about to strike an FNI. The job. It was not to be. An arrow whizzed in and struck hand. The knife fell to the ground as he screamed aloud. A long jar started. Many Lanka soldiers rushed in and formed. Ravan and his brother Kumbhakarna whirled around, grabbed Ravan's arm to restrain his impulsive elder brother. Protective cordon around the two royals. Kumbhakat. Other soldiers raised their bows and pointed their arrow in the direction of Sita. A loud "Don't shoot" was heard from Kumbhakarna. The bows were swiftly lowered. His oversized brother, or the Vishnu, Khara broke the shaft, leaving the arrowhead buried in his hand. It would stem the blood for a while. He looked into the impenetrable line of trees the arrow had emerged from, and scoffed in disdain. Who shot that? The long-suffering prince. Herself. A stunned Sita stood rooted to the spot. Vishnu. Home. The Lankans know. Who betrayed me? She marshaled her mind into the present moment. This was not the time for distractions. She moved quickly, without a sound, to another location. They must not know that I am alone. Come out and fight like real warriors, challenged Khan. Rav. Hi. Sita was satisfied with her new position. It was some distance away from where she had shot her first arrow. She slowly pulled another arrow out of her quiver, knocked it on the bowstring and took aim. In the Ilankan army, if the commandant fell, the rest of the force was known to quickly retreat. But Kriya 5. Ko. The. Lef. B. P. Ravan was well protected by his soldiers, their shields raised high. She could not find an adequate line of sight. Vishram was bare. He Vonel Bav gotten an arrow through. Somborn. Sita, warrior of Mithila 9. Sita decided to launch a rapid-fire attack on the soldiers to create an opening. She fired 5 arrows in quick succession. 5 Lankans went down, but the others did not budge. The cordon around Ravan remained resolute, ready to fall for their king. Ravan remained protected. Some soldiers began to run in her direction. She quickly moved to a new location. Left. As she took position, she checked the quiver. 3 arrows. Damn. Sita deliberately stepped on a twig. Some of the soldiers rushed towards the sound. She quickly moved again, hoping to find a breach in the protective circle of men around Ravan. But Khara was a lot smarter than she had suspected. The Lanka stepped back and, using his uninjured left hand, pulled out a knife from the sole of his shoe. He moved behind Jatayu and held the knife to the Naga's throat. With a maniacal smile playing on his lips, Khara taunted. You could have escaped, but you didn't. So I'm betting you are among those hiding behind the trees, great Vishnu. Khara laid sarcastic emphasis on the word, great. And you want to protect those who worship you. So inspiring, so touching. Khara pretended to wipe away a tear. Sita stared at the Lanka with unblinking eyes. Khara continued, so I have an offer. Step forward. Tell your husband and that giant brother-in-law of yours to also SREP forward. And we will this captain live. We 11. The RWO sorry Agodhya princes leave unharmed. Ni VW. Is your surrender. Khat grazed the knife slowly along Jatayu's neck, lying behind a thin red inn. He spoke in a sing-song manner. 1. Suddenly, Jatayu struck backwards with his head, hitting Khana in his groin. As the Lanka doubled up in pain, Jat screamed, Run! Run away, my lady! I am not worth your life. Sita remained stationary, silent. Don't have all day. 3 Lanka soldiers moved in and pushed Jatayu to the ground. Khara cursed loudly as he got back on his feet, shrill. Bent over to case the pain. After a few moments, he inched towards the Nagar and kicked him hard. He surveyed the tree line, turning in every direction that the arrows had been fired from. All the while, he kept kicking Jatayu again and again. He bent and roughly pulled Jatayu to his feet. Sita could see the captive now, clearly. This time Khara held Jatayu's head firmly with his injured right hand. To prevent any headbutting, the snare was back on his face. He held the knife with his other hand. He placed it at the Naga's throat. I can cut the jugular here and your precious captain will be dead in just a few moments. Or Vishnu. He moved the knife to the Malayaputra's abdomen. Or he can bleed to death slowly. All of you have some in. To think about it, Sita was still. She had just 3 arrows left. It would be foolhardy to try anything, but she could not let Jatayu die. HT had been like a brother to her. All we want is the Vishnu, yelled Khara. Let her surrender, and the rest of you can leave. You have my word. You have the word of a Lanka. Tet. SRE. To Jate. Sin. Slump. Any tin. Harin. GT. Mom. Of his. Ute. Sit. Slowly. Cheat. Were. And le. K. Jatyat. Kidney. Arrow. Lodge. Prot. The. Her. Dove. For. Kept for. And we will lure this captain live. We will even. The RWO sorry Ayodhya princes leave unharmed. All. Khara grared the knife slowly along Jatayu's neck, lean behind a thin red line. He spoke in a sing-song manner. Sia remained stationary, silent. Suddenly, Jatayu struck backwards with his head, hit him. Screamed, run away, my lady. I am not worth your life. Cunt in his groin. As the Lanka doubled up in pain, Jiti. Don't bow all day. Thros Lanka soldiers moved in and pushed Jatayu to the ground. Khara cursed loudly as he got back on his feet, towards the Nagar and kicked him hard. He surveyed the bent over to ease the pain. After a few moments, he inched tree line, turning in every direction that the arrows had been fired from. All the while, he kept kicking Jatayu again and again. He bent and roughly pulled Jatayu to his feet. Sita could, the captive now, clearly. This time Khara held Jatayu's head firmly with his uninjured right hand. To prevent any headbutting, the sneer was bottled on his face. He held the knife with his other hand. He placed it at the Naga's throat. I can cut the jugular here and the precious captain will be dead in just a few moments. Great Vishnu. He moved the knife to the Malayaputra's abdomen. Or, he can bleed to death slowly. All of you have some time to think about it. Sita was still. She had just 3 arrows left. It would be foolhardy to try anything, but she could not let Jatayu die. He had been like a brother to her. All we want is the Vishnu, yelled Khara, let her surrender it. And the rest of you can leave. You have my word. You have the word of a Lanka. Tet high. Step 4. To Jatayus. Sita low. Slumped W. Any tin mef. Her instinct. Great moment of his Heya. Yutujo. Sita the. Slowly to. Sheed. Waguk. And lower. Khara. Jatayus a. Kidney. N. Nu. Arrow the. Lodged it. I war. Protectia. More. Deba. Ra. Her quiv. Down IR. It the. Forward. Sita, warrior of Mithila. 11. Let him go. Screamed Sita, still hidden behind the trees. Step forward and surrender, said Khara, holding the knife to Jatayu's abdomen, and we will let him go. Sita looked down and closed her eyes. Her shoulders slumped with helpless rage, and then, without giving herself any time for second thoughts, she stepped out. But not before. Her instincts made her knock an arrow on the bow, ready to fire. Great Vishnu, sniggered Khara, letting go of Jatayu for a moment, and running his hand along an ancient scar at the back of his head, stirring a not-so-forgotten memory. So kind of you to join us. Where is your husband and his giant brother? Sita didn't answer. Some Lanka soldiers began Novembering slowly towards her. She noticed that their swords were sheathed. They were carrying lathis, long bamboo sticks, which were good enough to injure but not to kill. She stepped forward and lowered the bow. I am surrendering. Let Captain Jatayu go. Khara laughed softly as he pushed the knife deep into Jatayu's abdomen. Gently, slowly, he cut through the liver, a kidney, never stopping. No, screamed Sita. She raised her bow and shot an arrow deep into Khara's eye. It punctured the socket and lodged itself in his brain, killing him instantly. I want her alive, screamed Kumbhakarna from behind the protective Lanka cordon. More soldiers joined those already moving towards Sita. Their bamboo lathis held high. Ram! Shouted Sita, as she pulled another arrow from her quiver, quickly nocked and shot it, bringing another Lanka down instantly. It did not slow the pace of the others. They kept rushing forward. Sin shot another arrow, her love one more Lanka. He groaned, the others pressed on. The landlings were almost upon her, their bamboo ist. As a Lanka closed in, she lassoed her bow, untin hit Lathi with the bowstring, snatching it from him. Sis. Back with the bamboo latbi, straight at the Lanka's knocking him off his feet. She swirled the lathi over her, its menacing sound halting the suddenly wary soldiers as stopped moving, holding her weapon steady. Kanseri, her Chi, ready and alert. One hand held the stick in middle, the end of it tucked under her armpit. The other was stretched forward, her feet spread wide, in balance as was surrounded by at least 50 Lanka soldiers. But they lure. Ranson, screamed Sita. Their distance. Ram, bellowed Sita, praying that her voice would Somcho carry across the forest to her husband. We don't want to hurt you, Lady Vishnu, said a Lanks. Surprisingly polite. Please surrender. You will not be harmed. Sita cast a quick glance at Jatayu. Is B still breathing? G. We have the equipment in our Pushpak Viman to save H. Said the Lanka. Don't force us to hurt you. Please. Sita filled her lungs with air and screamed yet again. Ram. She thought she heard a faint voice from a long distance. Sita. A soldier novembered suddenly from her left, swinging his EFHS. Noel. Low aiming for her calves. Sita jumped high, tucking her face in to avoid the blow. While in the air, she quickly released HS as SH. Phoneme as Chag. Sishis. S. Sita. Sita. 1. Into her. Pa. Ag. Ank. His. It. Right hand grip on the lathi and swung it viciously with her left hand. The lathi hit the Lanka on the side of his head, knocking him unconscious. As she landed, she shouted again, Ram. She heard the same voice. The voice of her husband. Soft. From the distance. Leave her alone. Sita, warrior of Mithila. As if electrified by the sound of his voice, 10 Lankans charged in together. She swung her lathi ferociously on all sides, rapidly incapacitating many. Ram. She heard the voice again. Not so distant this time. Sita. He's close. He's close. The Lanka onslaught was steady and unrelenting now. Sita kept swinging rhythmically, viciously. Alas, there were one too many enemies. A Lanka swung his lathi from behind into her back. Ra. Sita's knees buckled under her as she collapsed to the ground. Before she could recover, the soldiers ran in and held her tight. She struggled fiercely as a Lanka came forward, holding a neem leaf in his hand. It was smeared with a blue-colored paste. He held the leaf tight against her nose. As darkness began to envelop her, she sensed some ropes against her hands and feet. Ram, help me. And the darkness took over.